From high atop Robinson Manor, live out of West Palm Beach, Florida, this is the Jake Robinson Sports Experience. What's going on? It's your boy, Jake the Snake Robinson, and look, it's finally starting to happen, guys. The hot stove is actually, things are happening, and I gotta be honest, I'm not a morning person at all. I mean, usually I do this show and, I do all my best prep at night when I have no one bothering me, no one in my head, and, I usually want to record these at like 3 in the morning. Well, in all honesty, I'm going to pull the curtain back on this a little bit so you can get a glimpse into my world. I actually passed out during the prep because there was just so many deals going down. I mean, it's really starting to happen. I can only imagine what it's going to be like when the season is in full swing. And yeah, I know I lost my mind on that last show with the whole collusion thing, and I feel just so much better. I mean, look, I still don't trust these owners. That's never going to change. But, I'm just going to chalk that up to a bad day. But now I'm happy. Things are starting to happen. Things are starting to move. And you're going to catch all the moves here on the Jake Robinson Sports Experience. It's your boy, Jake the Snake. Good morning, everybody. Oh, and I got to tell you, I am not a morning person at all. At all. I am a night owl. And this is way too early for Jake the Snake. I should be curled up in a hole somewhere. Instead, I'm sitting here drinking coffee and eating pancakes. I mean, waffles. Yeah, these aren't even pancakes. These are waffles. And by the way, waffles are really just pancakes ribbed for your pleasure. I mean, when you think about it, right? So, look, you got to bear with me. I just woke up. Barely, I don't drink coffee, so had my pancakes. And I'm going to sit down here and try to dig into this prep that we've been getting down to. And look, I know that Pittsburgh is in a state of mourning this morning. I mean, it's been a rough week on them since the Steelers, they swallowed the other day. And all the craziness that's going down in the Steel Town since. I mean, it's got to be really tough in that city right now, and my heart is out with you. I mean, so many moves going down in Pittsburgh, and we're going to cover every single one of them. The San Diego Padres, I mean, it seems like for the last 3 shows I've done, the San Diego Padres have made the show. They're making moves again. We're going to look into that. San Diego Padres, Minnesota Twins, the Mets, the Nats, the Jays. I got it all. Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years. It's your boy. I got your hookup. Holler if you hear me. Jake the Snake doing it on what is today? Today's Tuesday. These days just blend into one another for me. It's a Tuesday morning, and I must be out of my mind to be doing this in the daytime. Incredible. You have no idea. But the Snake is awoke, and I'm going to bring you all the news. It's the Jake Robinson Sports Experience, live on the Let's Talk Baseball Podcast Network. And before we get into this, and this seems like this is like an every week occurrence becoming, and we got to put an end to it. We lost 2 more just icons and legends in the game of baseball, and from Dick Engberg to Rob Piccolo, to Keith, now Keith Jackson. I mean, it is amazing. Keith Jackson, the fabled play-by-play broadcaster, he was found dead Friday at the age of 89. And look, he was primarily known for his work in college football, especially SEC football. I would say that, in my mind, Keith Jackson is the voice of college football. When I think college football, I think of Keith Jackson. Oh, he coined the phrases like the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl. Called Michigan the Big House. Wardnelly. You know, it's funny, too, because when I was a kid, Keith Jackson called a lot of baseball games. And I know this generation doesn't really know him as a baseball announcer at all. But Keith Jackson used to call a lot of baseball games when I was a kid. And it's funny because when I was a kid, I actually thought he was a Yankees play-by-play guy because he always seemed to call, well, he always called the national game, and the national game was always the Yankees. So I just assumed that he was always a Yankee play-by-play guy, and as I got older, I figured out he was a national guy. But Keith Jackson did call a lot of baseball, and, you know, I can remember a lot of these games as a kid listening to him. And, of course, I used to listen to him call the Alabama games and, you know, Texas, Oklahoma. And I can remember sitting in right field and being like, you know, in my head doing an impression of Keith Jackson. And, look, Keith Jackson had those tremendous pipes. I mean, I'd give my vocal cords to have those pipes. You know what I mean? Like, that's incredible. I mean, dude, if I had that voice, I would just walk around work and, like, do play-by-play at my other job. Like, just play-by-play. Oh, there goes Sarah. She's got the tray in her arms. She's going to take it outside. You know what I mean? Like, I would just call play-by-play at my job. If I had Keith Jackson's voice instead of this ragged, disgusting, decrepit thing that I got, I would, well, look, I'd talk so much my mouth would hurt. And, you know, that happens anyway. But, you know, what an amazing voice. And I used to sit out in right field of Memorial Stadium as a kid, and I used to try to call games like Keith Jackson in my head. And I can remember being out in right field like, we got Kenny Singleton out in right field, and he's a horse. Oh, Nelly. And that was just like kind of my thing. Like, Keith Jackson was that guy. And he was a very good baseball announcer. I don't know if, like, the millennials know this about him, but he was. He called some of the greatest moments in baseball history. I mean, some of these all-star games he called, National League Championship Series, ALCS's, World Series. He called the famous Chris Chambliss call in 76, the Reggie World Series in 77. I remember him on national TV, Orioles against the Yankees. And again, I always thought he was just a Yankees play-by-play guy. Orioles against the Yankees, the day Thurman Munson had his funeral, and the Orioles were winning, and Bobby Mercer hits a line drive to the left field line, and 2 runners are going to score. He'll go around there, and he's going to slide to the home. Save! And, yeah, that off of Tippy Martinez. That was game, and I remember Keith Jackson calling that play-by-play. I mean, the guy was not just a college football icon. He is a play-by-play icon. He did Olympics, auto racing, basketball, baseball. He was a true gentleman in every sense of the word. Many people called him the Edward R. Murrow of sports. You know, and he just had an amazing set of pipes. And you know, it's funny because I told you guys how I always felt about Dick Enberg. And, you know, in a lot of ways, Keith Jackson, too, even though he was more a football guy. And I thought about it as I thought about Keith Jackson's legacy. And I think that we have a fondness to these people because there's not many people when they leave where you can still hear their voice in your head. I mean, it's such a renowned voice. Look, put it this way. If you heard that guy's voice coming from your TV set, you know it was a big game on TV, right? I mean, they didn't call him in to do Temple and Rutgers. You feel me? He's doing the big game. It's the big show. Kind of like the Jake Robinson Sports Experience. It's the real deal. And I think that we have such an attachment to a lot of these announcers. I'm speaking for me because I've always had a thing for announcers. Some of you could care less, and I understand that. I think for me, though, I always looked at an announcer as someone that we let into our home. You know, they become family in a lot of ways. You know, we sit down and we eat our food, and we stomachs ourselves as a family unit. I mean, it sounds nice on paper. I don't know what that means, but it sounds nice on paper. You know, we sit around, we talk like a family unit. We watch these baseball games, and you become part of our family. And I think it's why people have such an affinity to their local play-by-play guys. You know, a lot of people, and I'm not in this group, but I understand, a lot of people don't like national callers because they're not invested in their team the way that fan is. You understand what I'm saying? Like, look, if I have that mentality, just look at it this way. I'm a fan of a team. I'm going to give everything, my money, my heart, my love, my pain, my tears. And some fans want their announcer to be right there with them in that situation. And like I said, they become family. And I think that's why we have an attachment to a lot of these guys. Now, when I think about Keith Jackson, he really could have had some of the better calls in the history of sports. And I was always a fan of Howard Cosell when I was growing up. But I can remember Howard Cosell just stepping over Keith Jackson twice in the air. And it was just unbelievable. 1976, Chris Chambliss against the Kansas City Royals hits the home run that propels the Yankees into the World Series. And the worst part about the call, and look, if you think I'm lying, you just go to YouTube, go to your Google machine, whatever you do to acquire video, and check it out. Check out what I'm telling you. I'm telling you the truth right now because I remember this as a kid. So the pitch comes into Chris Chambliss, and he hits the ball in the right field. And Keith Jackson is on point with it. It's a long fly ball, deep down the right field line. And he's building crescendo in the call. You know, this is a dramatic game-winning shot. This is going to put the Yankees into the World Series. And Howard Cosell, I loved Howard, first of all. I'm a big Howard Cosell guy, you know. I mean, of course I am, right? I mean, you understand that I love Howard. I'm sure you can. But I will never forget, Howard Cosell literally walked all over Keith Jackson's call of this Chris Chambliss home run. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, he didn't get to call the shot. Well, I remember thinking that, and then, you know, the funny thing is, about a year later, almost to the date, Howard Cosell, Keith Jackson in the booth, and if you think I'm lying about this, you can go to YouTube, you can go to your Google machine, check it out. Reggie Jackson, 77 World Series, hits the 3 home runs, right? 3 pitches, 3 home runs, right? The last home run, the pitch goes into to Reggie Jackson. Reggie smashes it into center field, into the black. Just the exclamation point on the series, on the game, and sent the Dodgers home. And the Yankees with their first championship in 20 years or something. So I remember Reggie Jackson hitting this prodigious shot. I mean, it was a shot into the black. Nobody hits it into the black there at Old Yankee Stadium. And Keith Jackson, again, the perfect crescendo, perfect call. It's a fly ball, deep center field. And Howard Cosell, that son of a bitch, stepped all over his call again. Oh, get at it. And Reggie Jackson just cemented his status as MVP of the series and, literally goes into a one-man dialogue over the top of Keith Jackson's call. And I just remember as a kid, damn it, he did it again. 1 year later, did the same thing. And I don't even think that Keith Jackson and Howard Cosell ever did a baseball game together after that. 2 years in a row, Howard stepped all over his call. So, just a little Keith Jackson story that I thought